Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the arrival of the Honourable Roosevelt Skerrit, Prime Minister of the Commonwealth of Dominica. Just in the interest of time, while we're waiting for the next arrival, which is the President of Dominica, you can be seated. I may have to ask you to space of time, so please do take your seats. Some like a traffic light system. Now, ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the arrival of His Excellency Mr. Charles Saverin, President of the Commonwealth of Dominica, and Mrs. Saverin. Now, please remain standing for the presentation of the colours.
Colours. Colours. Shut. Shoulder. Up. Presidential salute. Repeat. Up.
Isle of beauty, isle of splendor, isle to all so sweet and fair. All must surely gaze in wonder at thy gift so rich and rare. Rivers, valleys, hills, and mountains, all these gifts we do extol. Healthy land so like all fountains, giving cheer that warms the soul. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's wrecker, the bombs bursting in her,
for your beautiful renditions of the national anthems, Miss Elizabeth Roll and Miss Curlin Roll. Now please remain standing for the morning prayer of the physician, which will be given by Dr. Ricardo Hood from the Department of Clinical Medicine.
Good afternoon. The morning prayer of the physician. O God, let my mind be ever clear and enlightened. By the bedside of the patient, let no alien thought deflect it. Let everything that experience and scholarship have taught it be present in it, and hinder it not in its tranquil work. For great and noble are those scientific judgments that serve the purpose of preserving the health and lives of thy creatures. Keep far from me the delusion that I can accomplish all things. Give me the strength, the will, and the opportunity to amplify my knowledge, which yesterday I would not have dreamt of. For the art is great, but the human mind presses untiringly. In the patient, let me ever see only the man. Thou bountiful one hast chosen me to watch over the life and death of thy creatures. I prepare myself now for my calling. Stand thou by me in this great task, so that it may prosper. For without thine aid, man prospers not, even in the smallest things. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hood. Everyone, please be seated. So after such a beautiful introduction, let me be the first to officially welcome you to the Ross University School of Medicine White Coat Ceremony for the class of 2021. Good afternoon, everyone. We rehearsed this morning, didn't we? Students, good afternoon. That's better. I'd like to start off by welcoming and thanking President Savrin and Mrs. Savrin, the Honourable Roosevelt Skerritt, Prime Minister of the Commonwealth of Dominica, Her Excellency Miss Linda Talialatella, Ambassador to Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean, Mr. Reginald Ostry, Member of Parliament for Cottage. I see Mr. Tong, and of course Mr. Ian Douglas. Other visiting dignitaries and government officials, honoured guests, faculty, staff, families and friends who are celebrating here with us in Dominica, as well as all of you joining us on our online cast via the live stream that we're providing today. And as Senior Associate Dean for the Dominica campus of Ross University School of Medicine, I'd like to extend a special welcome to all of our incoming students. So welcome to Dominica. Now, students, you have noticed, being observant types, that there is a white cardboard box sitting in front of you that was waiting for you when you took your seat today. This is a small gift, University. We're excited and curious to the contents of the refrain from opening the box. Open your box. I now have the distinct privilege and pleasure to invite the Honourable Ian Douglas, MP, Minister of Trade and Development and Parliamentary Representative for Portsmouth constituency, to welcome you to this beautiful island of Dominica. Ian.
Thank you very much, Dr. White. Your Excellency, President of the Commonwealth of Dominica, Charles Savre, and Mrs. Savre. Honorable Prime Minister, Honorable Dr. Roosevelt Skerrit, Honorable Robert Tong, Honorable Reginald Ostry, Dr. Joseph Flaherty, Dean and Chancellor, Your Excellency Ambassador Linda Tagliatella, Dean Stanley White, other distinguished guests, faculty, incoming students, all of those in the sound of my voice, good morning, good afternoon, and welcome. It is my distinct pleasure to welcome the new students to Ross University. So again, I say to you, welcome to Ross University and the Commonwealth of Dominica. You have chosen perhaps the best place on earth to pursue your medical careers, and I'll tell you why. About 38 years ago, a great relationship was forged between the Commonwealth of Dominica and Ross University when Robert Ross decided to establish Ross University here in Dominica. The school started basically with less than 20 students, about 15 students, in a small hotel room on the West Coast, not too far away from here, in a small hotel called Castaways Hotel. And subsequent to that, a few months later, Dr. Ross met with the then Deputy Prime Minister of the country, and he was invited to set up and establish Ross University right here at Picard. And I can tell you, because I was here, the school started with a 40-foot container as the classroom, and the first commencement ceremonies were held actually in that container. At that time, we didn't have the white coat ceremonies yet. And that is how the school began, smack in the middle of a banana plantation, because this entire area was in fact a banana plantation. And so, to where we are today, banana farmers becoming serious entrepreneurs and businessmen and investors in the Picard area. And now, even the country of Dominica have grown with the school. You had to sleep in Puerto Rico if you had to get to Dominica, and today you have the good fortune of being able to get from mainland USA, anywhere in mainland, improved tremendously. You would be roads anywhere in the region, the world, because that is what Ross University, services that are available to you here in the Portsmouth, in the Picard area, and in fact, Dominica, are among the best that you'll ever have. So we have invested in your success. Every single one of you can and will be successful here in Dominica, in the Picard area, from your security services to your apartments. I mean, 30 years ago, students literally was in one room with your bedroom, your living room, your kitchen, everything in one studio arrangement. Today, you have some of the best facilities available, from flat screen televisions to microwaves and laptops in some of the apartments, and you name it. Everything has been tailor-made for you to succeed. And that is what we have here. So today, we are very happy to welcome you to the Commonwealth of Dominica. Like I said, some of us have been here from the beginning. I can speak personally. I used to be a young chap, probably less than 15 years old, in what was the canteen, a small room at Ross University, probably only serving muffins and Coke and some coffee at the time, and probably some French fries. And we have grown to make it basically what it is today, to cater for you and everything that you would need. So we're very happy to be here. In fact, one of the ministers here with us, Honorable Reginald Ostry, actually was an employee of Ross University in the anatomy department before he went on to bigger and better things. And so I say all that to let you know, built this relationship together. We are a family. I, in fact, have family members still on the faculty. My sister, Dawn Douglas, works at Ross in the clinic, and my aunt, Mrs. Lambert, which some of you all probably have met, also works on faculty. So it has been Dominica, the town of Portsmouth, and Ross University. We have grown this relationship together, all to ensure that you are successful in the pursuit of your medical careers. So once again, on behalf of the Commonwealth of Dominica, on behalf of the Honorable President and the Prime Minister. Where else could you go to a ceremony? Which other students, medical students in the world, could go to their white coat ceremonies and have the top figures, the head of states, here with you just to welcome you and to ensure that everything is in place for your success nowhere else but right here at Ross University. So we welcome you, we wish you Godspeed, and we will see you in about 4 to 5 years when you actually graduate as medical doctors. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ian, for your normally impassioned sentiments and thoughts about students. I'd now like to welcome to the podium Dr. Joseph.
But how he says it is more important. His enthusiasm, his love for his country, and his appreciation for the partnership with Ross is deep-rooted, sincere, and it's just something for you to see. As he said, what other medical school in the U.S. has a president and the prime minister attending their white coat ceremony? And we say, oh, it's a small country. This is very sincere. This is a partnership. They see it as a partnership. We are their guests, and they are really appreciative to have us, and just keep it in mind. It's important. I've talked to you a little earlier about what I think you have to do, which is basically study. I want to reiterate what I may have said in your introduction. We expect all of you to be able to make it through medical school. Nobody was selected with a wink and a handshake. Nobody was selected with, well, I don't think they can make it, but give them a try. Let's help you make it. We want to see you make it. And you here. Goes. This is kind of a celebratory year for me. I know you won't believe this statistic, but 50 years ago, this fall, I started medical school myself. So those were a long time ago. Few of us in the audience remember that. And I was thinking, what was different and what's the same as it was during that period of time, 50 years ago? Well, first, what's different? We just had a couple drugs, penicillin, rubbing alcohol, digitalis made directly from the plant. Dermatology had one motto: if it's dry, wet it; if it's wet, dry it. Surgery had their own motto, which is, if the first three procedures and operations don't establish a diagnosis, go back and take a history. So it was good. Some of the things that were the same, anatomy is still 1 year, 3 times a week, all morning in the anatomy lab. So there's things that have stayed the same. But what's really stayed the same is 55 years ago, a group in Kansas studied medical students for 4 years through medical school. They found out, just like you, they start out very idealistic. In other words, what you write in your personal statement, I think most of you believe. You really want to help people. Idealism usually goes away in the first year or two. And here's where Ross students are particularly accelerated. They usually give up idealism after about a month. And what changes it? It's the volume and speed of knowledge. Up until this time, since you were in kindergarten and first in your class, you were able to have a finite amount of work, read it, study, memorize it, regurgitate it, and do well on all your exams. There's too much knowledge in medicine to do that. And you have to come to grips with, how do I study? What do I study? And it comes down to, you study what you need to pass your test, and you start getting help and advice and ideas of what you're going to need to be a good doctor. And I think all of you will make the right choice. The other thing that hasn't changed, it still remains an incredible honor to be able to talk to a patient, have him or her tell you about their hidden ideas and fears. Do they have cancer? Do they have this? Do they have that? Maybe thoughts they haven't shared with anybody in their life. And to be able to be entrusted with that degree of confidence requires us not only to keep it confidential, it requires us to be the best doctor we can for them, to learn, to continue learning, to be insatiable in our quest to keep up and have new knowledge. And so I encourage you, I congratulate you on the beginning of a very long pilgrimage. You have a tremendous opportunity given to you. Advantage of it. Carpe diem. Seize the moment. Do well. And congratulations again.
Thank you, Dr. Flaherty. This time, it's a pleasure to invite Her Excellency Ambassador Linda Talialatella, Ambassador to Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean, to give some remarks to you. So, Ambassador Talialatella, it's a pleasure.
Good afternoon. It is an honor to be here today. His Excellency Charles Severin and Mrs. Severin, the Honorable Roosevelt Skerrick, Prime Minister of Dominica, Ian Douglas, Minister of Trade, Energy and Employment, Senator Robert Tung, Minister of Tourism and Urban Renewal, Minister Reginald Austin, Minister for Housing, Land, Water Resources, Dean and Chancellor Dr. Joseph Flaherty, Dean Dr. Stanley White, professors, students, administration of Ross University, distinguished guests, parents and loved ones, and the students that are receiving them. It's a pleasure to be here, to welcome you to Dominica and congratulate you on being accepted into the medical program here at Ross University. I have to say, what a great way to start off a new year. This is the beginning of a long journey in achieving your dreams. So here you are on White Coat Day. Well done. Let's pause for a moment and think back to what you were doing a short while ago. Were you sitting in a job that was less than motivating? Were you sitting in a school getting ready to graduate, wondering what you're going to do next? Or were you perhaps already decided you wanted to go to med school but were figuring out how to make a plan to get here and to be able to afford it? But no matter what you were doing or what you were thinking, it was almost a year ago this month in to Barbados for the first time. But if you look around, closer to your I think back to John Donne and give you the extra push. So what I would like you to do now and to each of you, for the future doctors and researchers who preceded you, and I see that you have a passion the best you can, and you're going to go the extra mile. Never settle for the simple answer. The road to success is it's possible to achieve, and it will help you get through a career here at Ross University. The inquisitive, asking questions of those who walk the same. Curiosity, a lifetime commitment. Continuing education should be a no-brainer in your field. As Dr. Flaherty said, medicine has come a long ways in 50 years, and it will continue to grow over time. You must keep up with the latest technologies and medical advances in order to provide your patients with the best care possible. Another quote, this time from Walt Disney: forward, opening new doors and doing new things because we're curious. But I will tell you, don't forget to broaden your interests. Take classes outside your normal scope of career path. Take pride in your work. Harness what motivates you. Make a difference. As the current ambassador to the United States to Dominica, then I'd like to start my diplomatic career 50 years ago. I take great pride in introducing myself as a civil servant. I serve the public, and so will you. People trust us to put the greater good ahead of our own self-interests. As you know, doctors work in hospitals, clinics, NGOs, and other organizations all over the world where they selflessly provide care in the face of disease, danger, and death. I also want you to know that as you gain some experience, the State Department hires medical doctors to work on our embassies abroad. So those of you who have a lust for travel, down the road you may consider doing that. Your chosen profession dedicates itself to helping others. There is no more noble cause than this. But let me tell you, it is truly a pleasure to be here to see all of you sitting here with aspirations of becoming a doctor. I want to wish you the very best. I send warmest regards from the President and from the United States, and wish you all well as you begin your career as medical doctors. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador Tagliatella, for your thoughtful and inspiring remarks. At this point, I'd like to welcome to the podium the President of your Student Government Association, Mr. William Hall, to make some welcoming remarks. William.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you. I appreciate it. I've had the chance to meet most of you already. My name is William Hall. I am a third semester student and your SGA president. Thank you. It can be very difficult moving to a new area, but there's something to be said about stepping outside of your comfort zone, putting your best foot forward, and giving it everything you've got. Stay focused on your goal because it's your greatest motivator. I'm going to end my quick little introduction with a quote from Yoda. I can't do the accent, so. Do or do not. There is no try. We all came here with the same goal in mind, so now it's time to do it. With that being said, it'd be my pleasure to introduce the Associate Dean of Student Affairs, Dr. Brian Hayes.
Thank you, future MD Hall. It's good to see everybody. Welcome to all of those that are here on island for this special occasion or watching on the computer. Welcome to anybody who's going to stick it out with your student the next 4 to 5 semesters. And of course, welcome to others around things that. I mean, think about how, and by the Ross University School of Medicine has one purpose, and that is we offer the opportunity to fill and more than 12,000 years than any. We absolutely can and do make dreams come true, so welcome. So, we are very proud of the diversity of our students who represent many cultures, religions, and ethnic backgrounds. And to highlight some of these, I want to tell you a little bit about yourself collectively. So, 56% of you are male, 44% of you are female. Condolences to those hoping the ratio would fall a little differently. Your average age, 26. Your age range, 20 20 to your GPA, a very respectable 3.2. 188 of you, and the other 49 of you, a Bachelor of Arts degree. Your average MCAT score, 26 on the old scale, 494 on the new scale. So here's the part where it might get a little competitive. So, remembering that this is a very professional and somber occasion, you may still feel free to cheer at any moment you feel compelled to do so. So let's start with your undergraduate institutions, your alma mater. 7 of you, never mind, let's start at the bottom. The third, 5 of you came from each of these institutions. Stony Brook, SUNY, anybody? There, we have one hand, he's excited. The University of South Florida, there we go. University of Toronto, McMaster University. You guys are a tough crowd. And second place with 6 students, UCLA, Florida International, and Florida Atlantic Universities. And number 1 with 7 students each, Rutgers, the State University of New Jersey, there we go, and University of Maryland, College Park. No, they all decided to not come today, evidently. Or that was last year's statistics and I really messed something up. All right, so as a class, you're born in 43 unique countries. 116 of you were born in the U.S., 181 of you, however, U.S. citizens. 9 of you were born in India, 7 from Canada, 13 of you were Canadian citizens, however, 4 in Pakistan, 3 in Nigeria, 3 in Cuba, 3 in Sri Lanka. It's a tough crowd, man. And the remainder born in 31 other countries. Well, there we go. So other gets the biggest applause. Good to know. In terms of United States and Canadian residents, 38 of you were from California. Yeah, I knew that would do it. 28 from Florida. The same, 28 from New York. 19 Ontario. 21 from Illinois. 16 of you from the state where everything's bigger, so you say, Texas. 11 from New Jersey. And 10 from Maryland. Those crazy Maryland Indians. All right, in terms of the most common first name in your class, my mother would be proud, Brian. 2 with a Y and 2 with an I. In second place, Ashley, Jonathan, and Sarah. And in third place, Aaron, Amid, Alexander, Allison, Christy, Daniel, Douglas, Aaron, Jasmine, Joshua, Matthew, Patrick, Raja, Ryan, and Samuel. And in terms of the most common last name, Patel. And a 2-way tie for second with Gonzalez and Khan. So please use your full name with all your RUSM business. And you and your colleagues have participated in a diverse array of extracurricular activities, EMTs and paramedics, 11 physician and nursing assistants, 4 pharmacy techs and assistants, 33 research assistants, 6 registered nurses, 25 scribes, 32 teachers, teaching assistants, and tutors, and 3 of you served in the U.S. military. One of you served as a U.S. Army Medical Service Corps officer, one is in the Army as an LPN and Special Forces medic, and one a Special Forces Army National Guard member. Yeah. You're also a very altruistic class. 126 of you volunteered with nonprofit charities and organizations, and 98 of you volunteered at hospitals or clinics. You're also a social group. 14 of you participated in, 9 of you participated in pre-med organizations, 8 of you members of AMSA, and 12 of you were in honor societies. You're also a very talented group. 7 musicians, 1 orchestra trumpet, 1 piano, 1 guitar, 1 drummer, and 2 singers. Somebody can check that math for me. 4 published writers, 1 swing dance club member, 1 professional DJ, 1 mixed martial artist, and 1 blue belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. That's fun to say, isn't it? Jiu-Jitsu. You're also athletic. 34 athletes among us, 8 in soccer, 11 coaches, 5 in football, 3 in basketball, 3 in baseball, 1 in volleyball, and 1 in tennis. And let's not forget about the 7 of you that were stars on the intramural field. We have 2 basketball, 4 volleyball, and 1 dodgeball captain. And don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure that's what pushed your application over the hump, by the way. And we have 4 endurance race doers, 3 Tough Mudders, and 1 Spartan race runner, and 1 competitive billiards player. So don't get hustled over at the CAC. For all of your similarities and differences, we're honored to accompany you on this journey through medicine. We welcome each of you and celebrate your diversity. We are truly glad you're here and look forward to helping you achieve your dream. Okay. Because I've already noticed some of you are starting to twitch from lack of studying, I'll turn it back over to Dr. White for a more serious and dignified part of the program. Welcome. We're glad you're here.
Thank you, Dr. Hayes, for showing us that demographics can be informative as well as entertaining. Edutainment, I think Homer Simpson called it. Now, Dr. Nancy Selfridge, Professor and Chair of the Department of Clinical Medicine and Assistant Dean for Clinical Sciences, will provide us with an introduction to the medical profession. Dr. Selfridge.
Some of the students have already heard me joke about this, but if I don't use the riser, it's the incredible shrinking woman back here, and you can't see me at all. So welcome again, everybody, but this message is particularly for our students, the meaning of the white coat and coming to medical school. So I'm not going to belabor this because I'm going to show you these very famous paintings that are part of your cultural literacy in medicine in a lecture later in the semester. And some of you are saying, oh no, but that's okay. These 2 paintings are very famous. They're by the same artist, Thomas Eakins, an American realist painter, and you can see his birth date and the date that he died there. But all I want you to pay attention to is a difference between these 2 pretty similar paintings in the physician and attendant's garbs during surgery. And then note the difference in the dates between these 2 paintings. It's about 14 years difference. And it was during that 14-year period that doctors went from traditionally wearing very dark clothes to traditionally wearing white, which we carry on now. Okay, so who cares? Well, what does a white coat mean today? I'll show you this picture, and some of you are saying, oh, it looks creepy. It looks like she sneaked into my apartment this morning and took a picture, which I didn't, but equally as creepy, I found this on the internet, not social media. So today is the last day you're going to wear your white coat in celebration. I promise you that. After this, it's going to be work clothes. How many of you have seen any or all of the films in these blockbuster movie franchises? How many? Raise your hands. Okay. So it's not an accident that these are incredibly popular and make so much money because they're based around this idea of the hero's journey. I'm a great fan of Joseph Conrad, who's written extensively about the hero's journey and what qualities of the hero's journey are common to all myth and legend and fairy tales. And I would posit this: you have now embarked on a hero's journey. And if there were diagnostic criteria for the hero's journey, you would meet those diagnostic criteria. So let's look at what that looks like. So many of you at some point became aware, maybe acutely aware, but maybe not. Maybe it was just sort of a feeling that you had. But it went something like this: life's not exactly what I want right here and now, I want something more. Maybe influenced by other people, maybe not. Maybe it was entirely internal. So we call this the call. This is what Joseph Conrad called it. Now, that being said, some of you might have heard the call very, very young. For example, Dr. Hood, I know, heard the call when he was 4 years old. Yeah, absolutely. And you might be like that. But some of you, it might have been more recent. Doesn't matter. It was the call. And then you went through a period of initiation and preparation. Now, what is interesting about that in the hero's journey is this is often accompanied by meeting people who are naysayers, who are giving you a message that you can't make it, and they don't even know you. But they say you're not good enough and you can't make it. Maybe you encountered that. If so, meets the diagnostic criteria for hero's journey. But here you stand now at the threshold. Now, we call those naysayers guardians of the gate. But you got past them, and you're standing at the threshold right now. You are here, actually, a week down. Okay, the next thing is this idea that I'm heading down a path of adventure, and anything is possible here, which is true. It's exhilarating. And I happen to know that all of you are still exhilarated, because I talked to Dr. White about that just at the beginning of the ceremony. You're still exhilarated, and that's excellent. But soon, you will be heading into the pit, also known as the abyss, which is what Joseph Conrad calls it. Now, why would we call it that? Because this is a period of time that may be punctuated, in addition to exhilarating experiences, it may be punctuated by some really heavy-duty negative emotions. And what are they? Feeling overworked, overwhelmed, tired, angry, anxious, guilty, depressed, etc., etc. But why? It's because this is the point you are meeting dragons, monsters, fears, trials, minis, finals, and the comp. Now think about this. You no sooner slay or overcome one of them, and the next one pops up immediately. How many films have you seen like that? That's your life right now. Okay. And you may be beset by thoughts that go like this: I can't have it, it's not worth it, I don't know if it's worth it, I don't deserve it, it seems futile, or maybe it's not real, it can't be real, this adventure. But every hero meets helpers along the way. These are helpers and guides, your allies, mentors, helpers, and opportunities, and you had a great orientation to all of them in your new student orientation week. So you know what these are, and we expect you as heroes to use your guides and helpers until ultimately, ta-da, triumph, breakthrough, and most importantly to me looking at you is this transformation that inevitably occurs for 100% of you who make it, so that you are finally ready to return home with the gift, whatever that means to you. But it's a gift that you share with others. All right, so your white coat over the next several years, you might be thinking about it as it's a cool thing and it's part of, mandatory dress code for clinical activities, et cetera. But over the next few years of your training, it's going to be a lot of things very pragmatically and symbolically. Cloak of compassion, symbolic. But think about this. Pajamas, pillow, and blankie. Why? Because you're going to wear your white coat while you're on call, and you're going to be falling asleep while you're standing up, etc. And anybody who needs to know how to roll up a white coat to make an efficient and effective pillow without wrinkling it, come and see me in my office. In addition, it's going to be a great laundry indicator, just like running out of clean underwear. But along the lines of symbolism, again, it's a hair shirt. And what do I mean by that? By definition, a hair shirt is symbolic of self-imposed punishment, suffering, sacrifice, or penance. Maybe not penance so much for you, but definitely this is self-imposed. You want to do this. And yet, it requires a lot of sacrifice, and it requires a fair amount of suffering. Then there's this dark side of the white coat. I just want to let you know about this. 20% of people who have hypertension have it just because they're in the presence of a doctor. That's not so good. So going forward, as you wear your white coat into clinic, with this awareness, you have a choice what you're going to do with the gift that you get from your training. And that is, you can have a placebo effect on people yourself without prescribing a single thing. Your mere presence, your demeanor, and your attitude can be a placebo, having a positive physiologic effect on the patients you care for, or exactly the opposite by virtue of your attitude, demeanor, the way you behave and present yourself. This is Arthur Townsend, and he's not a super well-known physician, but I want you to think a little bit about this when I share what he said about physicians. Look at his birth date and his death date. So he was born at the tail end of the war between the states, okay? And that was a rough time for people of color. But then think about when he went to medical school. So think about around age 20, so 20 years after that, 20, 25 years, it was a turn of the century, the 20th century. And that was also a very rough time for anybody of color in any professional training. So he had it rough. This is a physician you can be sure had it rough. Furthermore, he went to Meharry Medical College, which is in Nashville, Tennessee, so he was in a southern state on top of it, and ended up practicing in Nashville, Tennessee for his career. He said the good physician does all the good he can to all the people he can in all the ways he can. He struggled, he did a hero's journey, and he came out the other side with this incredible gift for us. And I would add 24/7 is what we've got to do that. Okay. And then you've already seen this quote by Anna Quinlan I shared with you earlier this week. But I want to remind you that we have a lot of expectations from our patients. By virtue of choosing the profession, we, patients, expect you to be better than the rest of us. And we've already talked together about what that means in terms of qualities and characteristics. So in the end, and I'm going to share one of my favorite quotes with you that I think is applicable to medical school, and this is the guy who said it. So who is this? Tom Hanks, a very young and very attractive Tom Hanks. What's the movie? League of Their Own. And he said something important, and it's not that there's no crying in baseball. That's not the one. So I'll do the setup for this. Tom Hanks in this movie, as you recall, is a washed up and injured alcoholic baseball player who gets the opportunity to coach women's baseball. Women's baseball incredibly popular in the 1940s because all of the male athletes have been drafted into the U.S. military and they're away fighting the war. So he has a really successful women's baseball team that he is coaching. And his star player, played by Gina Davis, is a catcher. And he has a successful season. But at a certain point, she's ready to lead the game and she's walking away. And he sees her. He chases her down. And I'm going to paraphrase what he says. He says, if you want to go home with your husband and make a lot of babies and get out of this, who am I to stop you? But I just want to know why. Because I know you love this game and it's in your blood. And she said to him, it just got too hard. So this is what he said to her, and this is what I say to you for medical school. It's supposed to be hard. If it wasn't hard, everyone would do it. The hard is what makes it great. Welcome today to the beginning of your hero's journey and the hardness and greatness of all of it.
Thank you, Dr. Selfridge, for that absorbing perspective on entering this profession. One of the highlights of these ceremonies for me is the opportunity to showcase one of our products, one of our MDs, who once upon a time was sitting in the seats that you're sitting in and is now a successful practicing physician. So at this time I'd like to invite Dr. Laura Welke, our Assistant Dean for Faculty Affairs and Development, to the podium to introduce our keynote speaker.
I don't think I need the riser because I have my heels on today. All right, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. So thrilled to see all of you here. I'm also absolutely thrilled to be able to introduce Dr. Ray King as the January 2017 White Coat Speaker. For Dr. King and his family have become one of my closest friends over the year since we first met in 1999. So pardon me if I simply call him Ray at some points in this introduction. When I met Ray in 1999, Ray was 3 years into his doctoral training in anatomy and neurobiology at Boston University School of Medicine. And I was just starting my journey there in the same program. Ray came to Boston from New Jersey, where he graduated with a Bachelor of Science degree from Rutgers University, and I heard a few out there. I knew that Ray was very dedicated to the anatomical sciences and related clinical aspects, so much so that he completed a master's degree at the New England School of Acupuncture while pursuing his doctoral degree. He was exploring the Eastern medicine component and expanding his anatomical knowledge to clinical application. After completing his master's degree and graduating with PhD in 2002, Ray accepted a postdoctoral fellowship at the Center for Molecular Imaging Research at Massachusetts General Hospital, affiliated with Harvard University School of Medicine. During this time, he was also an adjunct assistant professor in medical gross anatomy at University of Massachusetts, assisted with instruction back at Boston University School of Medicine, and also found the time to spend time in Nepal in 2003 at Kathmandu Medical School, helping to set up their gross anatomy and histology programs. Near the end of his 2-year postdoctoral fellowship and teaching ventures, I clearly remember a day with Ray. We were driving around Boston, driving the streets of Boston, and Ray reached down in between the driver and passenger seat and pulled out a brightly colored brochure. He handed it to me and said, "This school has invited me to interview for a faculty position. I am going to check it out." I looked at the brochure, and it was Ross University School of Medicine. This was the very first moment I had ever heard of Ross, and I thought, wow, the Caribbean. Well, Ray, of course, was successful and was offered that position and moved to Ross University as an assistant professor in 2004. And I actually followed in Ray's footsteps, for he recruited me to Ross the following year in 2005. And this is where I get a little emotional, because I would not be standing here today if it wasn't for Ray. And I cannot thank him enough for guiding me to an opportunity at this university. I've been teaching here now 11 years, and to the island of Dominica, which I have grown to love so much and have made my home. So here I was, so Ray and I are teaching together, we were having a blast, and 2 years into his tenure at Ross, Ray was still pursuing educational opportunities and pursuits. He was a Harvard Macy Fellow in 2006 and 2007 in the Leaders in Medical Education and Educators in Health Professions program. It shouldn't have surprised me then, but Ray decides to even go further with his education and begins medical school here at Ross University. The amazing thing that still boggles my mind to this day is that Ray continued to teach in first semester gross anatomy while taking courses in the upper semesters. Of course, he was not allowed to write exam questions or enter the exam center, except for his own assessments. He went through the foundation's coursework with ease and soon was off to clinical rotations. During his schooling, he met his future wife, Jessica, who is in the audience. She is also a Ross University graduate and is now an assistant professor of surgery specializing in pediatric otolaryngology and head and neck surgery at the University of Wisconsin School of Medicine. What a mouthful. Aww. Aww. Upon graduation in 2010, Ray matched into residency at Medical College of Georgia in the Department of Surgery. From 2014 to 2015, he was chief resident in that same department, and in 2015, we were very proud when he won Resident of the Year. From July 2015 to June 2016, Ray completed a fellowship in colon and rectal surgery at the University of Minnesota. He is now in private practice at Colon Rectal Surgery Associates in Augusta, Georgia. And I think, if I can say, I think that one of Ray and Jessica's proudest accomplishments over the past 6 years was most likely welcoming their first daughter, Savannah, during their residency, and then their second daughter, Charleston, during their fellowship year. Amazing. I have 2 dogs that I can't even take care of, and you did, and they did two surgeons, 2 children, residency fellowship. My goodness, they blow me away. So absolutely amazing. So it is just my absolute honor, pleasure to welcome their family and my dear friends back to the island of Dominica, and to welcome Dr. Ray King to the podium as your white coat speaker.
Yeah, we're all going to start crying. Thank you for the honor and the privilege of the podium. So, I will start with a quote like everybody seems to be doing. President Theodore Roosevelt once said, "It is not the critic who counts. Not the man," oh, sorry, I'm getting a little emotional, Laura. "Not the man who points out how the strong man stumbled or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs and comes short again and again, who knows the great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat." So this quote has hung above every one of my little cramped cubby holes and desks for the better past 2 decades. It's a constant reminder of things that I've accomplished, my failures and shortcomings, and more importantly, what I've yet to achieve. So welcome to medical school. This is the beginning. I applaud you for taking this monumental step, and it's a big step. Many of your undergraduate classmates and friends probably had these same aspirations, but have talked themselves out of this endeavor for whatever reason. But you have taken this huge leap of faith on this incredible journey. It is really hard to believe, and Laura and I have talked about this quite often, that it's been over a decade since I sat in your seats. Looking back, I see the faces of many critics, along with many supportive friends. And I remember a lot of the cautious advices, the encouragements and the discouragements, the "you can't," "you better not," "it's never been done before," or "it can't be done." Nowadays, when I talk to my Ross friends and colleagues at national conferences and meetings, I realize that it is absolutely not the critic who counts. All of you sitting here today have taken upon yourselves the pursuit of this worthy cause. So the first lesson of Ross, do not ever let anyone tell you that you can't. Muhammad Ali once said, "Impossible is just a big word thrown around by little men who find it easier to live in the world they've been given than to explore the power that they have to change it. Impossible is not a fact, it's an opinion. Impossible is not a declaration, it's a dare. Impossible is potential. Impossible is temporary, and impossible is nothing." I use quotes quite a bit because I use them because they are derived from profound yet common human experiences spoken by men and women that are way more eloquent than I am. They are guides and mile markers from those who have gone before and paved the way. You know, there are over 16,000 Ross alum out there. I mean, it's an incredible number considering that we've only been around since 1978. And that's 16,000 aspiring doctors who sat in your same seats right now, or in the container. Who woke up every morning and decided every morning that today I'm going to be better than yesterday. Don't recreate the wheel. Engage the alumni. Learn what they did to succeed and learn how to avoid the common pitfalls of both medical school and residency. Early in your career, make the effort to get in touch with us so you don't make the same mistakes. Over the past few years, administration here at Ross has made tremendous efforts and strides to energize the alumni base and to develop a mentorship program just for you guys. Take advantage of it. Lesson number 2, you are your own champion. The faculty here at Ross will teach you and guide you and sometimes prod you along over the next 4 years. But have a very clear understanding that your success is really all on you. Don't expect anyone to make you a doctor. That's your job. You alone are accountable. And when you stumble on an exam, you have to develop the maturity and the insight to systematically evaluate your mistakes. And also have the fortitude to specifically seek out those who can help you, whether it be friends, classmate, a teacher, or family member. You can't just lash out and blame it on your own inadequacy or the quality of the poor lectures or the bank closed early today, the electricity ran out, the island's too hot, the study room is too cold, et cetera, et cetera. We've heard them all before. You know, the skill of introspection is one that you will need to develop early and during these next first 4 semesters to be successful as physicians for the rest of your careers. This is why I believe Ross, especially here down in Dominica, is an ideal proving ground at the start of your medical career to develop those special traits that sets us Ross grads apart: flexibility, adaptability, and inventive problem solving. And that's really will come into play when you guys get back stateside for your residencies. You know, my wife and I have over the years have mentored many aspiring surgeons that's come through Ross. And these are several of our observations. 1, the ones who make it and the ones who match well are those who don't blame others. They assume full accountability for what's on their curriculum vitae. 2, they are the ones who can accurately articulate the source of their successes as well as their mistakes and what they did to correct them. 3, they're not afraid to reach out to their mentors or seniors for help. They have adapted this technique that we've been kind of pushing, the shameless self-promotion technique, realizing that you have to sell yourself at some point. You have to be your own promoter, which means you have to know yourself well. You have to know what you're selling. What it is about you that makes you better than the other 100 well-qualified candidates. Jessica and I entered the 2010 match as a couple, her in otolaryngology and me in surgery. We have never heard of so many discouragements. The nose and the doors slammed in our faces. I mean, it was really one of the most stressful periods of our careers because it was such a tough match. And it felt like the whole world was against us. And at some point in the next few years, you will get that same feeling. So we steeled our resolve and decided that this was a career that we wanted. We adopted a mantra of who are they to tell us that this can't be done. This was where flexibility and adaptability we learned in Dominica actually came into play. We utilized every connection and pulled every string, moved across multiple states just to get to the right rotations. And then when we got there, we basically busted our butts to work hard and harder than everybody around us. I remember at Mayo Clinic doing one of our sub-internships, getting up at 3 a.m., actually daily, to catch the bus so I can make it in before the intern arrives. And then when we went to Boston to do our other rotation, Jess and I share this little tiny twin-sized bed in Beacon Hill, where it was kind of slanted towards the wall, so whoever had to round first sleeps on the outside. And her rolling out of bed at some ungodly hour just to do the same, and just to prove the same, to work harder than everybody else. All those things and thousands of little sacrifices and all the little hurdles in between. Was it worth it? Well, we matched. We completed our residencies, and then went on to match in our respective fellowship, subspecialty fellowships. But what we're most proud of is that we had, along the journey, had these two amazing kids. By the time we both became board-certified surgeons, and this is going to sound weird, these accomplishments became almost routine, almost expected. And I'm not saying this with any pride or arrogance, but simply to illustrate my point that we have learned and understood that success truly is practice. It's a habit developed over time. And for you, it starts right now. You have to practice to succeed. There is a famous surgeon that's still practicing, actually, in University of Louisville, Dr. Hiram Polk. And I saw one of his quotes on one of my mentors' desktop. It says, "The patient's outcome correlates directly with the surgeon's attention to a myriad of minor details. This obsession of doing a lot of little things right is the foundation for good surgical results." This obsession over thousands of little details over the next 4 years for you, both in success and in failure, is a trait that you will have to develop in order to make success a habit. I am really in awe of all of you for this is really, said this during your orientation. It is a big deal. This is a big thing that you're here right now. It's amazing seeing all of you here about to put your white coats on for the first time. Remember, the big mile markers are only because of a million little decisions, all the trials and errors, and all the work you put in when no one's looking. Remember us, the alumni, that have kind of blazed the trail for a lot of you. Utilize us. Reach out. There are thousands of us out there in every imaginable specialty. We'll be here for you. We're here. We're happy to help out because we've been through the same thing. We know what it's like. Best of luck on setting your sail, and we'll see you all on the other side.
Thank you, Dr. King, for your inspiring words of wisdom to our new students. So now comes the really exciting part. You're going to get those white coats on. Now, being medical school, it's slightly more complex than one might normally do, but relatively straightforward. At the appropriate point, follow the instructions of the usher, and who will guide you from your row down towards the faculty, who are positioned to my right and to my left, who will assist you in donning your white coat. We're going to do this process one row at a time, and we'll begin with the back rows. So as your row is identified by your usher, please stand and proceed to the center aisle, and then move down and stand in front of a member of faculty who will help you don your coat. Then proceed up the steps at the sides before returning to your seats on the outside aisles. So just follow the instructions of the ushers, and you can't go wrong. So ushers, please lead us in the donning. Faculty, if you'd stand and receive your guests. Congratulations to this class of 2021. Good luck as you start your medical education. I was going to tell you to give yourselves a big hand of applause, but I know you're a really proactive lot, so well done. You all look absolutely brilliantly. I now welcome Dr. Enrique Fernandez, who is Professor and Chair of the Department of Family Medicine and Director of Community Outreach and Education, to the podium, and he is going to lead you in reading the Hippocratic Oath and to share a few remarks.
Good afternoon to the class of 2021, and welcome. Your first pop quiz. Was the Oath of Hippocrates written by Hippocrates? No. He lived in the 5th century BC, and it was written by an anonymous author in the 6th century BC. However, here's what you need to know, or here's what's important about the Hippocratic Oath. The Hippocratic Oath is one of the oldest binding documents in history. It was written in antiquity, and its principles are held in sacred honor by physicians to this day. Though it's not a binding oath, it is indeed seen as a solemn declaration of our commitment to patients and the communities that we serve. So the Hippocratic Oath intends to convey our inner emotions and thoughts as we pass from one stage of our journey, starting medical school today, to the next stages of training and providing care to patients. Whether we do this through the words of the other times, the original Hippocratic Oath, or through the words of our present times, the modern iterations of the Hippocratic Oath, we are bonding with our fellow students in the moment, joining our mentors in the present, and recognizing our predecessors and honoring them. Class of 2021, please stand. I would invite members of the audience who are physicians as well, or anybody who would like to stand and recite the oath with us. And so I would like you to say this loud and proud and with heart. And let's talk together to say the Oath of Hippocrates. I swear to fulfill, to the best of my ability and judgment, this covenant. I will respect the hard-won scientific gains of those physicians in whose steps I walk, and gladly share such knowledge as is mine with those who are to follow. I will apply for the benefit of the sick all measures which are required, avoiding those twin traps of overtreatment and therapeutic nihilism. I will remember that there's an art to medicine as well as a science, and that warmth, sympathy, and understanding may outweigh the surgeon's knife or the chemist's drug. I will not be ashamed to say I know not, nor will I fail to call in my colleagues when the skills of another are needed for a patient recovery. I will respect the privacy of my patients, for their problems are not disclosed to me that the world may know. Most especially as I tread with care in matters of life and death. If it is given me to save a life, all thanks, but it may also be within my power to take a life. This awesome responsibility must be faced with great humbleness and awareness of my own frailty. Above all, I must not play at God. Not treat a fever chart, a cancerous growth, but a sick human being whose illness may affect the person, family, and economic stability. My responsibility includes these related problems if I am to care adequately for the sick. I will prevent disease whenever I can, for prevention is preferable to cure. I will remember that I remain a member of society, with special obligations to all my fellow human beings, those sound of mind and body, as well as the infirm. I do not violate this oath. May I enjoy art, respected where I live and remembered with affection thereafter. May I always act so as to preserve the finest traditions of my calling, and may I long experience the joy of healing those who seek my help. Please reflect on this and remember it throughout your training and career, and we'll recite this again at graduation. So I look forward to seeing you then as well. Welcome to the class of 2021.
Thank you, Dr. Fernandez, and you may all now be seated. At this point, it's customary for us to present some gifts to some of our guests, so I'd like to invite Dr. Flaherty, Dr. Fernandez, Dr. Hayes, and Dr. Welke back to the podium, please. So, Dr. Flaherty will flowers to Mrs. Saverin. Dr. Fernandez will present a gift to our white coat speaker, Dr. King. Dr. Hayes will present a gift to Dr. Jessica King, Dr. King's spouse. And finally, Dr. Welke will present some flowers to Mrs. White. So I'd just like now to thank all of our presenters, our dignitaries, our guests, particularly our faculty and our staff, and of course our current students who you all met as you came in, who have assisted with this very special ceremony. And especially our new students for a very successful and I hope an inspiring and motivating white coat ceremony for you all. Now please stand for the retreat of the colours. Please remain standing for the departure of His Excellency Mr. Charles Savarin, President of the Commonwealth of Dominica, and Mrs. Savarin.
Please remain standing for the departure of the Honorable Roosevelt Scarrett, Prime Minister of the Commonwealth of Dominica. Please be seated. This is the part where I wait till I'm cued that the president has left the facility. So hang tight. And if you don't tell Dr. White I let you, feel free to open your box if you want. Shh. All right, at this time, I believe the ushers are going to come down to help dismiss you by rows, possibly. And outside awaits food, fellowship, and of course, pictures. Congratulations. Have a good rest of your day. Faculty, you may exit through the center aisle.